お時間になりましたので、ワークショップを始めさせていただきます。本日はソニーフィナンシャルホールディングス主催の、ワークショップにお集まりいただきまして誠にありがとうございます。フィンサムはですね、大変魅力的なプログラムが同時並行的に開催される中、これだけの多くの方にお集まりいただきましたことを、大変嬉しく思っております。ありがとうございます。また、このような機会を、設けてくださいました、事務局の皆様、そして、関係者の皆様にこの場を借りて御礼申し上げます。申し遅れましたが、私は本日のワークショップを主催させていただきますソニーフィナンシャルホールディングス株式会社経営企画部で事業企画を担当しております小原と申します。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。ありがとうございます。僭越ではございますが、本編に入らせていただく前に、私どもソニーフィナンシャルグループの、ご紹介をさせていただき、開会のご挨拶に変えさせていただければと、考えております。少々のお時間でございますがお付き合いいただければと思います。スライドにあります通り、弊社ソニーフィナンシャルグループでございますが、生命保険事業、損害保険事業、銀行事業、介護事業から構成されます総合金融サービスグループでございます。まだまだ序についたばかりではございますが、近年はフィンテック並びにインシュアテックの取り組みを強化しておりまして、グループを挙げて取り組みを図っております。また、我々のフィンテック、インシュアテックの取り組みといたしましては、グループ各社の担当者で構成いたします政府時フィンテックフォーラムを会議体という形で立ち上げまして、昨年度より議論をスタートさせております。グループ間の連携はもちろんのこと、外部企業の皆様との協業、検討といったところもですね、スタートさせておりますので、今後の成果にご期待いただければと思っております。さて、本日のワークショップのテーマでございますインシュアテックのこれからでございますが、インシュアテックの取り組みは私どもソニーフィナンシャルグループにとってはもちろんのこと、日本の保険業界の皆様、そしてここにお集まりの皆様にとっても共通のテーマと考え、今回設定をさせていただきました。本日は、こちらのですね、国内外の3名の有識者の皆様にご登壇いただきまして、インシュアテックの未来を垣間見る、そんな機会といたしたいと考えております。短い時間ではございますが、ここにお集まりの皆様にとって実り多き時間となりますことを記念いたしまして、開会のご挨拶とさせていただきます。最後までどうぞお楽しみください。なお、1点ご案内となりますが、本日皆様、お座りいただいておりますお座席上に弊社特製のモバイルリングを配布させていただきました。本ワークショップの参加の、ご参加の記念にですね、ぜひお持ち帰りいただければと思っております。はい、それでは、私からは、最後になりますが、本日ご登壇いただきます3名のスピーカーの方々をご紹介させていただきます。私が、お名前を読み上げさせていただきますので、会場の皆様はぜひ、拍手でお迎えいただければと思います。本日は前半のキーノートスピーチと後半のディスカッションパートという形で2部構成で予定しておりまして、お一人目はキーノートスピーチをご担当いただき、後半のディスカッションパートにもご参加をいただきますインシュアテックアジアの創業者兼 CEO のジョージ・ケッセルマンさんです。続きまして、ディスカッションパートにご参加いただく、2名をご紹介いたします。金融庁総務企画局企画課、信用制度参事官室フィンテック企画調整官の三輪純平様。最後になりますが、渥美坂井法律事務所外国法共同事業パートナー弁護士の鈴木由里様。以上の皆様より、本日はお話を頂戴いたします。では、ここからはキーノートスピーチを担当されます、ジョージさんにマイクをお渡ししたいと思います。Mr. George, are you ready, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, George.
your wireless microphone.
I prefer not to sit and walk around a little bit to keep the energy. So thank you very much for having me this afternoon. I'm very excited to be joining you guys here, and thank you for Sonie Financial for helping to organize this workshop. I think it's actually going to be a very interesting workshop and a very timely one, considering all the things that are happening here in Japan. Just to give you maybe a quick introduction about what's driving me and where I'm coming from. So InsurTechAsia, we have an association which basically it's insurance companies and startups that are outside of the traditional industry working together. It's called the ecosystem. So what's driving us is really about reshaping the industry, the insurance industry, to something that is going to be the future of the insurance. I myself came from the world of insurance. I worked in insurance across Asia for 10 years. So insurance is very near and dear to my heart, and therefore now is driving the change in the insurance industry. It is something that I'm really, really passionate about, and that's what we're doing. So I thought maybe we start off by just giving you some headline numbers. So this is the numbers that basically is showing the investment in InsurTech that is happening across the world. So what I wanted to show here is to tell you that the amount of investment that is going into InsurTech is increasing drastically. So you can see here, this is the investments that are got into InsurTech. And this one was a bit of an abnormality because you had the Zongan and Zenefits being funded in the same quarter. So there was a big spike there, but in terms of this is the numbers underneath, which is basically showing the number of transactions. You can see that it's definitely a big trend towards increasing the number of investments. So InsurTech have been on the roll. It's been, the investment in InsurTech has been increasing very, very much in the past few years. So it's something that is on the radar for a lot of the insurance companies and a lot of the venture capital firms across the world. So it's not looking at this trend over the last 5 years. It's no longer a fad. This is a serious business. This is going to be something that will change the insurance industry in the foreseeable future. So I thought I'll share this one with you as well, because it's difficult sometimes when you see the InsurTech, it's difficult to separate the hype apart from the actual reality. So people say, this is very exciting, they get overly excited in the beginning, then they say maybe it's not going to change, is artificial intelligence going to change our world of insurance, is blockchain going to revolutionize it? Nobody really knows, but what this is showing is this is called a hype curve. So it means that people get overexcited in the beginning and the actual change comes afterwards. So they get excited, they get disillusioned, and then the real change comes. So what you see here is that there are certain things like artificial intelligence where people overestimate its impact in the short term. It will probably take, let's say, 3 to 5 years for the real impact to come later on. But certain things like the cloud, mobile, social, information technologies, they're already more mature, so they're really starting to change fundamentally. And that's the difficult part about InsurTech, is really separating out the hype from the reality and focusing about building that foundation of change. The other difficult thing about this is, as an insurance company working with a startup, it's very difficult to say which startups are worth working with, which ones are not, because it's difficult to pick the winners early on, but at the same time, it's not to say that it's not important not to work with the startups. It's important to work with the startups early so that you can start building things from here. Maybe don't get overexcited about it in this part, but start to put those seeds of opportunities early on. So when the real change comes here, you're already ready, you're already prepared, you already understand what it actually means. Singapore, interestingly, have become the center of insurance innovation in this region in Asia. So Singapore has quite a few different things going for it, and I thought it's probably good to highlight those so that you understand why Singapore has succeeded so far in being an innovation hub for insurance. So what Singapore has is it has managed to attract a lot of the innovation labs. So all the insurance companies that are based in Singapore, there's a lot of them there as well. The regulator came to them and then said, please make sure that if you want to open an innovation lab in the region, can you put it with Singapore? We want to support it. So as of today, there's 10 innovation labs in Singapore. So there's a critical mass of corporate innovation that is happening in Singapore itself. And that in itself is not it's not a solution, but it's part of the ingredients to make that hub for the innovation. The regulator in Singapore, and I think some of you might have heard the regulators here, Supanto, they're also very, very proactive. They go out there, they actually ask the insurance companies, why are you not working with the startups? Can you do more innovation? So it's a very different positioning to say don't use regulator as an excuse not to do something. So that removes that hurdle of corporate innovation. And lastly, the Singapore government have been very good at cultivating the startup ecosystem. So they've invested a lot in breeding entrepreneurs, breeding venture capital, cultivating a local entrepreneur ecosystem as well. So all those three ingredients combined seems to be acting as a catalyst of that innovation for Singapore, and it's positioned it very well in terms of that hub. So I thought it was going to be good for us to also to maybe just talk about a few examples of what is happening in the world of InsurTech and give you a different flavors of what's actually tangibly happening in the sphere. So FWD, I don't know how many of you have heard of FWD. It's an insurance company that is based out of Hong Kong. It's a company that's backed by the Ka-shing family, so it's the second richest Hong Kong family. And it's going into digital first insurance. So when people are talking about some of the insurance companies, they're traditional and then they'll change in more digital. This is purely digital start. So they're going and they're acquiring, I think they acquired a company here in Japan from the IIG, if I remember correctly. But they're all going in and saying, we believe that the future is digital, how can we go there as quickly as possible? So what they've done, for example, in Singapore, is they launched a new company. They don't have any agents at all in Singapore. They said, we invest $500 million to make this a real impactful venture. And what they're doing is they're selling right now term life, they're selling endowment, they're selling out all online, fully digital. I've purchased myself personally because I was very curious. I went and I bought a term life insurance, $1.5 million, sum assured, you can buy it within 10 minutes. So all from start to end, there's a bit of a follow-up, but no underwriting, no nothing, and it's all paid online. I got a certificate issued. So I think to me, this is something it's getting a little bit more tangible. It's getting more exciting because this is really the next step. I wouldn't say that this is a future, which is going to be there 10 years, but this is a tangible step where we can see that technology is starting to change insurance. It is starting to revolutionize it. So FWD, I think, is a good example of what insurance companies can strive for in the next 3 to 5 years, because they are there. This is another very good example, which is a startup. So this is a startup that was launched in Singapore, I think it was about 2 months ago. And this is a startup that is doing a full-blown insurance. It's called Full Stack. So it means that they do the distribution, they do the product manufacturing, and basically act as an insurance company. And they got their first seed round, or they call it Series A, they got $50 million to start with. So this is another example of you have insurance companies that are starting to change. You have the startups coming in and saying, I want to be an insurance company. So the world of insurance is being basically taken apart. Ladder is another good example out of United States, also similar a startup that is going in, that is trying to change, simplify the insurance, make life insurance design catered for individuals, simplifying it, making it faster. So a lot of the things that we've seen right now, what's happening in the world of InsurTech, is looking at the friction points, looking at something that is not smooth experience for the customer, and just removing it and saying, okay, why do you need to deal with the agent? Last time there was no other way for you to purchase the insurance. Now you can do it online. We can ask you, instead of asking this long questionnaire, we can ask you 6 questions and basically give you a basic product. When it gets more complicated, obviously, maybe you'll need to have more financial underwriting, maybe you need a little bit more interaction. But when it comes to simple products, there's no reason why it couldn't be done online, and it is being done online. This is another very good example out of Singapore this time. So the Singapore CXA group was started by last time insurance executive. And what she's done is she created a flexible employee benefits broker, which is again fully digital. And right now they've raised the latest round was $25 million from the co-founder of Facebook, and the valuation for the startup is $100 million. So this is the kind of example where it is starting to really become tangible. So it's not just somebody who is trying something, but it is a real success stories for CXA, for example. They've got a large number of customers. They're going from Singapore. They already launched in Hong Kong. Now they go in China, 14 other countries as well they're launching. So this is a real tangible example of how insurance is starting to change. A life insurance side, employee benefit side, and otherwise. This is Safe Beyond. This is actually an Israeli startup. And this is starting to rethink the proposition. So the previous ones that we talked about before, previous examples, was very much about how can I simplify the product, how can I issue it easier, how can I remove the inefficiencies in the process. This is going slightly different. It's changing the proposition. So what they're doing is they're saying digital time capsule for your digital assets. So when somebody passes away, what happens to their Facebook account? What happens to all the banking login information, all the other stuff that they've created as a digital assets. So this is creating a digital vault for all of your assets. And as part of that vault, people are encouraged to put their life insurance policies, their insurance policies, because it is a real problem. When somebody passes away right now, the family starts to scramble and which policy did they have? Look in the safe, is there anything in the safe? No, is there, how can we find what insurance products were there? So this is trying to simplify that and saying, store it all in the same place. When something unfortunate happens and if the person passes away, this automatically goes to the family so that the family can open it and say, okay, insurance policies are there, the information is there, login information, so you can delete the Facebook account and things like that. So it is positioning it as a digital vault, but life insurance is that integral part of that proposition. So it's changing away from the traditional insurance product. And what they're doing, in fact, is they're saying, when you create this digital vault, if you don't have life insurance, maybe you should consider buying a life insurance. So it's repositioning it in the customer's mind where all of a sudden they're not thinking about insurance, they're thinking about their legacy, what happens when they pass away. Here's your digital assets, but actually what happens to the other things that you need to take care of. So rethinking the proposition is also part of it. Robinhood is something that is a fintech startup. It's not really an InsurTech startup. But why I included it here is because for life insurance, the big part about life insurance is not only the investment, not only the risk products, which is your traditional protection products, but actually all the savings, investment type products. So Robinhood, what they're doing is they simplify the investment to make it very, very simple and seamless right now in the United States. And they're considered one of those disrupting startups where all of a sudden the cost of trading is negligible or zero. So people are starting to trade, people are starting to manage their own finances. And that is also going to be a fundamental shift. Because what is very easy to see is that somebody who last time used to go to insurance to ask them to manage their investments, right now going forward, in a lot of cases they can say, actually I don't need insurance to manage my investments anymore. I can just use something like this, which is simple, intuitive, and is already there. And then just work, let the life insurance worry about insurance part. Savings part is going to be something that's potentially taking care of your robo-advisors, your Robinhoods of the world. And I think that's really also the future, where the world of insurance will get taken apart, where somebody says, why is insurance doing investments? Why can't something like this do investments instead? On the other side of the world of InsurTech, you have reinsurers. So reinsurers have been something that is a very quiet force in the past, where they've been sitting in the back and collecting the premiums, they're collecting the risk, they're doing the risk pooling. Where Munich Re is one of the big reinsurers of the world, where they've always been something that is basically hidden from everybody. What's very, very interesting about Munich Re and Swiss Re is that they're one of the biggest investors in InsurTech. So they've woken up to the reality that the world of insurance is changing, and they said, we need to be part of it. If the insurance companies are not moving quickly enough, we need to be there, we need to be moving quickly enough. So my cautious words is that if an insurance company doesn't move quickly enough, probably the next 5 years, reinsurance companies will come and they'll create a distribution channel for themselves and then compress that value chain. So all of a sudden, the insurance and the reinsurance company, the concept will start to get very blended. And somebody like Munich Re, for example, they have licenses in a lot of markets on the general insurance side. So they can start to go actually to the market and sell directly through those startups to InsurTech ventures. So here what you can see is that there's all these InsurTech ventures out there, InsurTech startups, in a lot of it is in Europe or United States. And what Munich Re has done, so Munich Re and Munich Re Ventures, they both aggressively invested in them. So this is all the investments. So they're basically taking part in a lot of the startups that are out there. So if you think about who are the investors, there's VCs, there's insurance companies, but a lot of it is coming through those reinsurance companies as well. So now I thought it's going to be good. I know that this is probably a lot of information and a lot of it is in English. I thought it's good for us to have a little bit of a participation. So I thought I'll ask you a few questions so that it's not just me up here speaking, but you get to participate as well. So in terms of how you think the future of the InsurTech is going to be, do you think it's going to be a disruption of insurance industry, or is it going to be a collaboration? So what I'll do is I'll ask you to raise hands if you think that it's going to be a disruption. Okay. Yes, it's okay. It's okay to raise hands. Nobody is going to. Okay. So disruption, we have about 5 people. Okay. How about collaboration? All right. So I think we have a lot more. Who didn't want to participate? Okay. All right. So I think it looks like collaboration is going to be more likely outcome, and this is something that we've seen as well happening in fintech. So where in the last 5 years, everybody was talking about how banking is going to get disrupted by fintech. Everybody was really scared. Looking about it 5 years later, now it's a lot more about collaboration. It's much more about B2B models, where the startups actually go and they help banks become more efficient. Maybe the only example that the real true disruption to watch out for is somebody like Alibaba with Alipay, where they're coming in and they're looking at the really true disruption of the financial services. 99% of the startups out there are looking at how do they work, how do they make it more efficient. So it is much more about collaboration. And I do believe that for insurance, it's going to be much more about that collaborative enhancement of the insurance industry together with the startups. Okay, second question. And this is, I think, something that Yuri-san is going to speak a bit later about the Japanese ecosystem for the startups. But I have a question for you. So do you think that in Japan, the insurance companies should do it together with the startups, should do the innovation together with the startups, or should do it themselves? Basically say, okay, there's no interest in startups, we'll go ahead and we'll do it ourselves. Okay, so we'll do, first one is together, let's do it together with the startups. Okay, that's very good. Do it alone, we don't need the startups. Okay, there's a gentleman there. Maybe I'll come back to you to ask you a question later. But thank you for voicing your opinion. I think it is going to be that together it is better, because what we've seen even in the places like Singapore, so I give you an example of Singapore before, where there's 10 innovation labs in Singapore itself. And you would think if there's such a critical mass of innovation centers there, insurance companies should be able to do it themselves. You can hire entrepreneurs, you can hire ex-consultants and let them drive that innovation. What we've seen is that even in the places like Singapore, where there's a critical mass of those labs, it's very difficult for insurance companies to do it themselves. Because all of a sudden you come back to the same constraints as you always have had. As an insurance company, you say, well, last 5 years we've been trying to become more customer-centric. That didn't really work that well. We've changed a little bit, but it's not really the true innovation. So this time when we're talking about we want to be innovative, we cannot do it ourselves as an insurance companies. There needs to be an outside force coming in. So it is really about doing it together. It's about finding the entrepreneurs, it's about finding the organizations to partner with to drive that innovation forward together. Okay. Last question. So insurance industry has traditionally been focused on one constituency. It's been the agent, has been the biggest customer for insurance industry. So if you think about going forward, who should the insurance industry be focused on? Should the insurance industry, when the innovation comes, should they focus on innovation for agents, or should they focus about innovation for customers? Who has let's start with the agent, who thinks that innovation should come for agents as number one, as a priority? Okay, thank you. For customers? Excellent, all right. Okay, looks like we have most of the consensus in the room, so that's good. I do believe that the shift will come and the customer will be the most beneficiary of the innovation that's going to come in. It's not going to be an easy transition, because it's a really big shift, mind shift for insurance companies, because you've always been used to working with the agent as your customer. It's always been, how can we make the agent pleased? How can we give them more tools? How can we make them more productive? But it's about changing that mindset and saying, actually, the party that has been a lot of the times forgotten is the customer. So how can we bring the innovation to the customer so that they're happier? So I think when I was thinking about the future that the insurance will see, is that there's going to be deep risk insights that will be generated. So a lot of the things that you're seeing, innovation coming in, it is about giving those risk insights. It's about a lot of the data coming from DNA, lifestyle, environment, and this is going to be the real step change in the industry. Because last time, if you talk about technology by itself and saying, how can we apply technology by itself is okay, but it's not impactful. The data is really something that's going to be very, very impactful. So if you look at your depth of data, and you can generate deep risk insights from that, and then you can customize the products. So it's not all of a sudden there's a term product that everybody gets, and this is what we have as a kind of a box product. it all of a sudden becomes, we understand you as a customer. This is something that's unique to you. This is a particular customized for you because we understand you. And if we cannot provide you, we will help you manage. Like earlier today, we had one of the startups in a big competition talking about diabetes. And previously, it was not insurable. Nobody can insure diabetes because it's actually quite expensive. But what they're changing is they're saying, we understand diabetes, we have a data about diabetes. Now you can create a product for somebody who's a diabetic, and then you can create something that is a product and helps them manage their condition. So we started to shift a lot more about risk management rather than the kind of off-the-shelf products. So to me, when I think about year 2027, so this is 10 years in the future, how insurance is going to be looking like. Insurance will look something that's much more of a insurance as a service. So if you heard the term, it's called software as a service, and that has moved away from you just buy a software and you just install it on your computer to something that's much more about the use base. To me, insurance will start to move into that direction as well, where it's going to be much more of a consumption base. Your needs are changing, your risks are changing. So it's going to be, as an insurance company, if you start to use technology and data very smartly, you can customize the products and you can customize the risk transfer in something that becomes much more of an integral part of the service to the customer than just a product. So the question, I kind of gave you a lot of the insights. So now the question of how would you do it? I encourage you not to look for why nots, because that's typically the place where a lot of the people in insurance companies are starting with. So when somebody says, I have this great idea, and the reason why I say it is because I worked in insurance a long time before, and this is something that was constantly a barrier where you say, let's do it differently. They say, no, let's not do it because our legal team says we should be careful, we should not do it. Somebody 5 years ago have tried to do it, they didn't manage to succeed, so let's not do it. This is 100 reasons why we shouldn't do it. So don't do that, because this is something that is very stifling for innovation. Do think about the cultural aspects of how might we, so this is a very powerful question. I don't know how to translate it into Japanese, but I think there must be an equivalent there, is looking for why might we do something. Start with that mindset of instead of finding a reason not to do it, find the reasons, how can we problem solve, how can we solve this, and how can we implement this. So if you see a new concept that is very interesting and potentially impactful, how can we apply it to our business? Starting that with that mindset, it takes a lot of effort in the beginning because it is very different. It's going back to that learning stage. If you think about when last time when you were little and you were learning to ride the bicycle, first time it was very uncomfortable. It's something that you can fall, but because it was something that you wanted to really do it, you figure out the way to do it after falling the first few times. So it's figuring out how can we ride that bicycle, how can we partner with the startups, how can we create those solutions for customers. And the other thing that I think is very important is to actually do things. So think about how to do it, and at the same time, take that a little risk on saying, we need to do it. Innovation is, you can hire a lot of consultants who is going to come in with a lot of great ideas, a lot of concepts, but until you start to do it and you get out of the comfort zone, so working with the startups, doing those pilots with the startups, the innovation is not going to move. It's going to be still stuck. The other thing is about digital profit and loss, which is basically saying that digital cannot be looked as a cost center. It's not something that people just say, oh, this is another branding and PR exercise for us. This needs to be something that has a profit element. So if you say, okay, digital is important to us, and we need to put a target to it. Next year, generate $1 million in sales. It's not a big target, but putting the target to it actually put a lot more seriousness towards it. Because otherwise, if you don't do it, it will. If you never measure it, it will never get done. It's just going to be something that is by the way. it's not a priority basically. So if you start to say, InsurTech is coming, InsurTech is there to stay, it will change our industry, we need to get on it, and therefore we need to say, next year is going to be very uncomfortable, we will find a way to do 1 million, the year after that is going to be 10 million, third year is going to be 100 million. So think about those aggressive targets where you say, right now, we don't know how to do it, and that's the uncomfortable part. But if you put those aggressive targets and you put smart people towards it, people will get excited. They'll say, find a way to do it. Here's all the tools that you have. Here's the startups that are out there that are solving this type of problems. You have a flexibility to achieve that and go ahead and do it. Then there's much more power to it. So that's my message to you is really about let's shape the future of insurance together, because it is going to be the people in this room changing the industry. It's not going to be somebody out there. This is the people who will change it for Japan. And I encourage you to think about how can you be part of it. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Georgia-san. So today, we will have the discussion about these three people, and then about 30 minutes or something, and then we have the Q&A session, maybe about 10 minutes, and then the wrap up.
I know it's I'll listen. I think I'm the only one.
Before we start the discussion, I'd like to maybe explain, for Georgie-san's sake, I would like to explain what's the status, what's the current circumstances in InsurTech in Japan. The basic question from Johnny-san is, should Japanese insurers do innovation by partnering with startups? And before we discuss about this question, I'd like to share with the audience about the current status. I listed up some categories which has already in the market or just under the planning. Firstly, I think the first one I put a small amount of short-term insurance, 少額短期保険事業者, because that small amount of short-term insurance is the category of the license apart from the incumbent insurance companies. But it's short amount of short-term insurance is the business operator insurance companies, but it's only permitted the 10 million yen or under and 1 or 2 years as an insurance term. And it's that's a relaxation of the entry into the insurance market. And basically, I think that it's appropriate for the InsurTech because that this kind of the insurance products is targets the niche market. So I think that it's suitable for the InsurTech. That's why I listed up. But that's like because it's one of the categories of under the business insurance business act. So small amount of short-term insurance itself is not a technology. So if it relates, connects to the technology, I think it would be great to create a new business model of the insurance. And it's a little bit similar to the peer-to-peer insurance. And to be honest, I tried to invite a startup speaker here, but he's not available, so I couldn't invite him. But there are some startups to plan to launch the new services of peer-to-peer insurance. And also, I know some business operator that's basically the IT system builder, which created a policy management system, which could be helpful for the customers to organize the policy they have to contract it, and they can analyze the coverage of their risk. And we have there already the aggregators. And in terms of on-demand insurance, recently there is a media reported that the major insurance companies started a study partnering with the third parties. And also we have already telematics and the major insurance. And then in terms of the life insurance, major life insurance companies are now starting their healthcare consulting service, and also the usage of the wearables. And the robotic process automation, because as you may know, there are huge volume of their administrative work for the insurance industry. So each insurance company is trying to adopt a robotic process automation. That's the current status and the overview of the Japan's insurance InsurTech market. And I'd like to highlight the recent topics regarding in the insurance industry in Japan. One thing is the partnership with the Vitality. So the Vitality is a famous foreign insurance companies which that provides healthcare kind of point program and healthcare services. If you get more and more healthier, you get more and more awarded, even if that you get the Starbucks points or something like that. And it promotes the customers' health. So, and this project will coming soon in Japan. And another thing is on-demand insurance. This is the screen photo of the trough. Trough is introduced in the George-San's presentation as well. And recently, the Sompo Japan invest in trough. That's media report. And also the major insurance companies started the study of the on-demand insurance partnering with third parties. As I said, that I tried to invite the startups to be, but I failed because currently there are very few startups, and I am organizing the insurance study group at the Fintech Association Japan, and I always looking for the startups, but there are actually currently there are very few. And on the other hand, the major insurance companies, trying very, very hard to set up their insurance team and study and to try to drive the open innovation by partnering with third parties. So there are a lot of media reports about the insurance companies' activities, but not heard about the startups' activities. So today it is a good opportunity to discuss how to why the InsurTech is very slow in Japan, and how do we solve this problem and to go forward to promote InsurTech. And what I'm listed is that partly because is this the regulatory or licensing issues under the Insurance Business Act, or is there any very conservative business practice in the insurance industry in Japan or not? Or is there any connection between the engineer community and the insurance industry? Because the startup people, they have technology, but they have no knowledge about the insurance. And on the other hand, the insurers is looking for the good technology firms or startups. So personally, I try to create some meetup opportunity to invite the startup people and the insurers. But there's some event there are many people gather, so it could be a good opportunity to come to the event and to communicate with each other. That's what I introduced about the Japan's circumstances, and then on this current situation, and how does the regulator FSA look at insurance innovation, and then Mr. Miller can participate in this event and make some speech.
Yes, thank you very much. So let me as a big okay. Before the live explanation, let me first introduce my background. I have been. My name is Junpei Miwa. I have been working in the FSA for more than 10 years. I have experienced mainly working at the insurance supervision, especially for 5 years in the international space of insurance supervision, especially from the 2010 to 2015 in the activity of the IAIS, International Association for Insurance Supervisors. In IAIS, I have undertaken the position of role of the vice chair in the solvency and actuarial issues subcommittee during the for 2.5 years. And I mainly participate in the international process of the international capitals, establishing the international capital standard in IAIS. After such experience, I am currently in the position of the director for fintech. So I think the completely different color of my role. So, but they are closely relating to the insurance or securities business. So, based on my experience, so now I'm tackle with the fintech issues. So yes, today I'm looking forward to the candid discussion. So maybe let me start my explanation on recent regulatory trend or regulatory move. But I want to address the question. Yuki-san's question. So why slow in Japanese industry? So I think in terms of the partnership or alliance between the insurance incumbents and startups, I'm always wondering why insurance incumbents do not feel motivated by the collaboration with insurance startups. So I may think maybe yes. I may think the first impact or threat was brought by the insight in the report of the World Economic Forum in 2015, titled as the Future of Financial Services, which stated the greater impact of the disruption is likely to be felt in the insurance sector mainly, so than the impacts of the banking sector. So I think they committed a sin because they may create a strong impression to the insurance incumbents and may bring the mindset of not facilitating the tie-up with the insurance startups. After the WEF reports in 2050, maybe incumbent insurers may have had a perception and may fear that the insurance business is likely to be one of the most disrupted industry by the fintech advancements. So, in reality, according to the InsurTech survey by PwC last year, this report indicated that around 75 of the respondents of the incumbents are thinking that their part of the business is at the risk of the disruption by fintech in coming 5 years. They may generally view InsurTech startups as a competitor or disruptors. So, on the other hand, incumbents also see opportunities that innovative solutions by fintech might create and has a potential to bring the competitive advantages by tie-up with the new fintech firms. In the environment where the technical innovations and the changes in customers' expectations have promoted InsurTech, so insurance incumbents recognize that the importance of fintech-related activities, trends, and also recognize the momentum for reshaping the incumbent insurance business model. In reality, some insurers established the digital and innovation lab, and some insurers have established the specialized section to address the issue of the fintech, and they are moving forward to considering the next step for reshaping their business. At the current juncture, so they just, maybe incumbent insurers just start to analyze the new needs and to cultivate the new demands of the customer, or to leverage the data for using the better risk assessment and the more efficient insurance underwritings. In the process of reshaping the business, they will have the possibility to have greater opportunity and will be able to cope with the startup to produce new products in the coming few years. Japanese Financial Services Agency also supports such insurers initiative and cultivate a better environment for further innovation in the insurance sector. So I think I want to address the recent trend of the international regulatory society. Let me move to the slide. I think at the current juncture, there are many uncertainties that prevent from the concluding the most likely priority or focal point in the regulatory and supervisory approach of the insurance sector based on fintech advancements. Regardless that many uncertainty exists, but using this opportunity, I'd like to introduce and address the recent steps of the international supervisory and regulatory community by considering and embracing the current fintech environment, such as technical developments and social changes. International regulatory and supervisory community have been gradually moving forward to the adapting to the fintech innovative environments in the scope of the financial stability and the supervisory and policy aspects. In the past slide, this slide, the policy message are made in the G20 communique, finance ministers and the central bank governors meeting in Germany this March. The statement is described in this slide. So, as a key point, it is a key that the communique encompass to ensure the benefit and the opportunity of the innovation and to encourage the international cooperation in cross-border aspects. On the other hand, so from the regulator perspective, in principle, technological developments may need a longer time horizon to demonstrate the underlying technology and use case. that is physically adaptable. So in addition to the longer time horizon, we also look at the current environment that the customer may react to the changing insurance landscape with increasing appetite for mobility usage, sharing economy, and so on. So in many cases, we still have to see and analyze how new technology and customer-based demand will impact the insurance value chain in the future. In February this year, the IAIS, International Association for Insurance Supervisor, which is international standard setting body, issued a fintech paper titled as Fintech Development in the Insurance Industry. This paper indicates the insights of insurance supervision in near term based on the current technological developments. The report states that the insurance supervisor may face the following changes in near terms. Maybe the supervisor need to understand how innovation work and applied to ensure the adequate assessment of new product or business model. And supervisor will also need to balance the risk of new innovations. Supervisory and policy makers will need to cultivate and pay appropriate adjusted the regulatory framework. So supervisor needs to arrange proper technical resources and knowledge and the skills to be able to deal with the fintech in the future. So in conclusion, so we study hard. I think of course as I mentioned, so JFSA we support the fintech environment. So of course we make a supportive environment while we pay attention to the policy for the protection or other important aspects for the insurance supervision. But I think using this opportunity for further discussion, for further consideration of focal points and priority, this material would be good to discuss. Maybe the said WEF reports, the outlook of insurance industry in near term based on the development of fintechs. This report made it clear how insurance sector, this is Japanese, so our value chain will be reshaped by the fintech movements. There are three predictions of the potential changes to insurance landscape. First one is the consolidation of the market by mega insurers. And the second point is the rise of multi-line products. And the third one, the shifting focus on the niche market and the commercial line. So I think to be honest, I think maybe I can clearly say that in the first point is considering the market saturation in Japanese insurance markets, so the further consolidation in mega insurers is not to be realistic at the moment. Yes, while small size consolidation to be possible, but the other one is very we want to discuss. So I think we would like to know the insurers' view or some other views. So I think we want to discuss these points. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Miwa-san, do you think how should insurance engage with the regulator for the innovation initiatives? As a Joe-san for the former presentation, that the Singapore government and MAS is assisting to promoting insurers to drive the more innovation partnering with the startups and I think that there are a lot of activities of the supporting activity within the FSA.
I see. So I think we have to know the current stage of the incumbent insurers of the fintech's current status. But I think currently the development phase, maybe infant stage of the collaboration with the fintech startups. So I think it is slightly difficult to provide a tangible answer to the best way. But I think in response to current fintech environment, so FSA Japan's supports for the fintech activity and interact with the fintech firms to seek for better solution to the new businesses. So especially for fintech firms or startups, we have set out the consultation desk for fintech firms named the Fintech Support Desk to interact with the industry since last year. This desk is aiming at the counseling the issues relating to the concern that fintech firms and startups may generally have, especially in terms of the compliance aspects. So the desk has been working with them and soliciting the question within around 4 days on average, so a very quick manner. So in addition, so if maybe, for example, firms, including fintech firms, move to the more advanced phase in the development through the pilot test, or in the fintech world, the work of the proof of concept. So the innovation hub would be useful. So in the government policy on the future investment strategy in 2017, so named Mirai Senyaku, it promotes technological developments in the fintech space using innovation hub. So the JFSA is now preparing to launch the innovation hub based on the government strategy and supports will support the pilot study of fintech firms and the incumbent financial institutions. So this is the current, maybe using this channel, so it would be better to cultivate the insurance or fintech startup business using our initiative.
So, Mino-san, thank you very much for those insights. I guess what you mentioned is that the fintech firms can use a consultation desk. Can the insurers use a consultation desk?
Yes, of course. But I think maybe in typical case, the Japanese insurance well understand our regulatory system. So maybe they do not use the fintech consultation desk. Maybe more advanced days, so maybe innovation hub would be maybe useful for the Japanese insurers.
I think a lot of the times there's a perception that they understand the regulation too well, and because they understand it too well, they're afraid to do something that is more innovative. I think that the thing about innovation is a lot of the times it's in the gray area. So maybe if the insurers always want to be 100% compliant, some of the things around the innovation falls out of that compliance. So how would they deal with this kind of situations? Because a lot of the times innovation is not straightforward. It's something that has not been done before. So when you're thinking about it from a standpoint of a startup, they can take that risk and it's okay for them. For the insurer, they'll be very afraid because they'll be afraid that your colleagues at the regulatory side is going to come in and knock on the door and say, hey, what are you doing there?
I think it depends on the use case of the new businesses. So I think fundamentally, traditionally we're looking at the kind of the insurance business with a view from the prudence or contact risk. So I think we are looking at the both sides of the important aspects of the supervision. So I think especially in the insurance business, so we are traditionally pay attention to the contact risk. So I think we have to pay attention to the policyholder's protection. So if you consider the use case of the new insurance business model, so I think think totally speaking, so I think it is important for us to look at the level of the policy protection. So I think the customers' demand of the level of the policy protection will be. I think some insurers, some people would like to step into the new contract, but also a safety net. They do not know the exact kind of inherent safety scheme, or maybe in that case. So I think there would be a very great problem in terms of consumer protection. So I think if we assess the new business, so we have to look at the level of the customers' expectations for policyholder protection.
So the next question is for both of you. Since you know Japanese market much better, what do you think are the lessons that insurance companies can learn from the fintech, from the banks, and apply it to InsurTech to make it a better and smoother experience and make it more impactful? Maybe Yuri-san, if you can go first.
I think that there are a lot of trials and study or planning within the insurance, Japanese insurance, and there are many media reports about that. And in some cases, they adapt some technology into their internal administrative work. For example, utilizing the artificial intelligence to, the underwriting or examination of the insurance process, or utilizing the AI for the customer call center, or utilizing the study, research and development of the blockchain technology to the trade insurance, something like that. And there are a lot of testing partnering with the old driving cars, but in those cases they partnered with the IT vendors, and in some cases, as I said, in terms of, for example, the on-demand insurance, they are partnering with the IT vendors as the system providers, and so it's a kind of the good thing to partner with the vendors or startups other than the insurance industry, because they have the new idea, and I also look at the news regarding the partnering with among the insurers and smartphone application fintech startup regarding the accounting services. So it's kind of there may be the smartphone apply. You can look at your asset management on the banking transaction and the insurance policies. That's a good thing. So, but it's that kind of application. It's an idea from the startup side. So it's better to partner with the third parties.
For what you're seeing on the banking side, I think there's a lot more happening. You said that banks are working a lot with the startups. What can insurance companies learn from banks?
It's a very comparison between the banking and insurance sector. But now with the we amended the banking law this year and last year, so we facilitate the further making a further innovative situation, innovative environment to the banking sector. So currently, we facilitate the open innovation based on the amendment. So now, currently, banking sector is the tackling with the open innovation using the open API to increase the more user convenience or more connecting to a lot of business. So I think the currently banking sector is now tackling to such kind of open innovation, using open innovation. So I think the maybe if insurance startups would like to make such steps. So I think the both the we have to consider the kind of the further establishing some environments. So, but current juncture we want to know the audience. So in the insurance sector, so, such a kind of situation would now occur in the insurance sector. So currently, I'm now the responsible for the fintech side. So I'm not, truly understand. I do not truly understand the current insurance perspective. So using this opportunity, we'd like to, know the audience voice of the current, situation comparing the banking sector.
I think that's a call to the audience. So you can come and talk to Iwa-san afterwards and explain to him the perspective of the insurance industry. I guess to me what's been very interesting as well is that over the past half a year, a lot of so I'm based in Singapore, and a lot of the Japanese insurers in Singapore, their local operations, they came to me, and actually it's been one of the most active and interested parties that have been coming. The Sompo, Tokyo Marine, the MSIG, all came and they said, we're very interested in innovation. Less so in Japan, but more in Southeast Asia. So I guess that's something that is my curiosity as well. Why are they driving innovation outside of Japan? Or perhaps maybe they're looking at doing it outside of Japan first, proving it there, and then bringing it to Japan. But I think it's a very good thing that you're asking those questions because most of the regulators at this point are in the same position where they want to learn, they don't want to stop the innovation, they want to see more innovation, but there's that kind of misunderstanding with the industry. You say, what, we want to see innovation, why is there no more innovation? Why is the insurance companies? And I think until that dialogue happens, it's going to be difficult for innovation to really take place. So it is about, I think, having that active dialogue where the insurance companies should come to you and they should say, we want to do innovation, but we think that this is the things that are stopping it from happening. This is why, how can we make it together? How can we address it?
I think the, this is the very useful material. So I want to know the insurance reaction to the current stage of the, now is that, trough of the disillusionment or slope of the enlightenment is a plateau of the plateau.
Where they are in that. So far the conversation that I had with Japanese insurers in Japan, most of them say that I don't want to go too early because until it's proven, I don't want to engage with it. To me, my idea is that you need to be early, you need to start experimenting early, you need to start with the startups, even until they reach the big scale, because unless you do that, you will miss the opportunity. It's the same thing as happened last time when last year I was here in the FinTech, FinSum forum, and the minister was here as well, and we were talking about how Japan in some ways missed the wave of FinTech before and technology last time because there was that reluctance to do things that are a little bit more risky. So I think it is about changing that and saying, okay, how can we start earlier on? I think coming back here this year, I can see that since last year there's actually been a lot of movement in that. So the message from the public sector to say that we're open for innovation, we welcome innovation, actually is something that it opens an opportunity for insurance companies, for banks to do more. They see that there is no barrier there.
I think we should move on to the Q&A session. So I think this is not focusing on my remarks or maybe on the regulator reaction. So I think I want to know the current stage of the insurance side. So I think in the banking side, they are now at the stage of innovation. So I think the insurance also the same stage. But I think of course I think maybe tangibility of the new business is it's a little bit smaller than the banking side. So I think current stage. So I as I mentioned, so some insurers establish the kind of the laboratory in the internal section, or some insurers establish the specialized section. So just my impression is that the insurers are now focusing on the cost efficiency or some business efficiency using a fintech technology. So I think of course maybe on-demand insurance is emerging force in the fintech area. So, but of course maybe in the current juncture, so I want to know the incumbent insurer or new fintech firms now moving to the producing tangible products in the insurance business. So I think as I mentioned, so I'm now out of the supervisory side. So I want to know the current situation in insurers, so insurance startups. So I think we interactively discuss this issue.
Okay, so let's move on to the Q&A session. なんかせっかくの機会ですので、ご質問ある方いらっしゃいましたらどうぞ挙手をしていただければと思います。ご質問は日本語でも英語でもどちらでも結構でございます。同時通訳が入っております。それではちょっと事前にご質問いただいていたご質問事項がありますので、I have received queries from so what do you believe is the reason the adoption of technology in the insurance area is lower than it is in comparison to the emergence of fintech ventures for settlement money transfer, like the traditional fintech that we discussed and Mr. Mura mentioned. So do you think that there are special conservative business practices or regulations or consumer psychology unique to the insurance industry? What do you think about the reasons and comparing to the banking sector, is a little bit slow in Japan. And also, where do you think the movement that will break through that these barriers will come from? Is it from the insurance companies or outside business entering into the insurance industry or entrance by startups?
Should I go first? Okay. So to me, the reason why the adoption of technology in the insurance industry is slower, it's probably to do with a little bit of a mindset of the industry. So Japan, I believe in Japan, what you mentioned is correct, is that the local startup ecosystem for insurance-related startups is quite young. So there's only a very few startups. So far we haven't seen much of a disruption or real kind of a scale in those startups. Even in Singapore, when we have about 100 plus startups in InsurTech, now it's just starting to get to a scale where we say, okay, there's a certain number of them that actually reached a scale. If you talk about places like London, they're talking about 1,000 startups in insurance, InsurTech startups. Last week I was in Berlin. There's 5 startups that are starting brand new insurance companies. All 5 of them starting brand new insurance companies. So I think my long answer to your question is the adoption of technology in insurance in Japan is probably because the local startup ecosystem is young, and because there is no pressure yet on the Japanese insurers to move. So it's a little bit like a status quo. So nobody wants to be the first insurer to move because it puts them in the exposed position. Everybody is interested, everybody is wanting to learn, but until somebody does something, nobody else will move. It's a bit of a like locked situation.
I see.
I don't have particular comment on this. I think the as I mentioned, the impact was brought by the the boat or something. So I think as I mentioned, so currently still conservative to the situation in the insurance sector. So I think now is the I don't know the current stage of the development. So I think of course I hope I hope that insurers make more advancement in the fintech business. So especially now is that they are considering the cost efficiency or more efficient risk analysis or more efficient underwriting. But of course based on the customers' demand. So maybe a new product will be produced. So for example, one I think this is our commission. This material was used in the presentation of our commissioner. So now is currently moving from the B2C business model to C2B business model. So now is the customer initiative now is stronger than before. So I think if we insurers would like to have the opportunity or a new opportunity, I think maybe it is better way to pay carefully attention to the customers' demand or customer expectation to insurance business. So I think maybe I think we are kind of at the crossroad, moving to the next phase or reshaping the business. So I think at current juncture, so maybe this trend from B2C to C2B, I think it's a kind of keyword to consider the future situation. of course, in banking sector, of course, it is applicable to the insurance sector.
And I think it's quite possible. Your second part was where the change will come from, whether it's going to come from the industry or whether it's going to come from startups or outside the industry. Nobody really knows, but if you look at Japan, for example, if you have players like Rakuten, which is the e-commerce, if they at some point decide that there's a way for them to really push into the insurance, they already have a lot of the customer. You have Amazon as well here. So at some point, there could be somebody outside force like that basically comes in and says that they decided to reshape it if the insurance will not move. So I think what you said is correct, that it's a bit of a crossroads. If the customers are getting the experience of shopping online, everything is instant, you go into a bank and the banks are becoming more digital, and all of a sudden the insurance is not there, the pressure will increase for either the insurance companies to do something that's more digital or an alternative solution to come in and present that digital forward insurance product.
Thank you. I would also like highlight that data. In Japan, I think the data sharing or the transaction of the data is just started, and I think that for now the insurance companies have started the new healthcare consulting services, or some insurer started the smartphone application for the healthcare information. So they can collect more information, data about the healthcare, and it could be, of course, could be used for the new insurance products or maybe a discount or a premium or something like that. So collecting data could be the main factor to innovate, create new insurance products. And we have only 2 minutes limit, but なんかご質問大丈夫でしょうか？せっかくの機会ですので。So, can I wrap up? Okay. Thank you very much to George-san and Miwa-san. And George-san presented the InsurTech overview of the InsurTech from the worldwide perspective. And then Mr. Miwa made a presentation, gave us the insights from the regulators' side. But I think that we agreed to accelerate the innovation in the insurance industry is to interact between insurers and the startups or the third parties. And I think so we thought that Japan is currently just a starting point to develop the new insurance industry. Do you have any addition? No?
It is absolutely right, and I think the dialogue, opening dialogue, I can sense that there's a lot of interest, but it is about not being shy to ask and talk about it. I think this is something that is okay. Nobody really knows any answers, all the answers in InsurTech. So this is new. The regulators are learning, the insurance companies are learning, the startups are learning as well. It is about creating that openness and saying, we want to all learn together. I think that's going to be the real future and the power of the InsurTech.
Thank you very much. ご参加ありがとうございました。